Welcome, everyone, to our session this evening with Dr. Jude Borger on intentional time management. I'm so excited about this session. I've heard her do a variation of it in the past at a really wonderful retreat that she was hosting that I was an attendee of almost exactly a year ago. And just in our conversations toward the end of 2025, invited her into our community to deliver this really wonderful coaching. In many ways, it kind of builds upon what we've done in our visioning workshops and other work that we do inside of Black Swan Real Estate and Freedom and Legacy around what do you want out of life, right? Visioning is all about seeing that future version of yourself and then bringing that future version toward you. And a key ingredient, I literally cannot stress it enough, is the time management piece, right? We can have these beautiful goals that we're super attracted to, that we're eager to bring into life. And if we're really struggling to find the time to invest in those goals and those visions, it can be, nearly impossible. And conversely, if we find that we're flittering our time away or getting into doom scrolling or all of these other things, right? We're human. We all have that tendency to accidentally waste time. We can be wasting our most precious resource, right? We can make more money. We can make more friends. There's so many things that there's more of them in our lives, but there's only a certain amount of time that we each get. And so I thought this would just be a beautiful time for us to be together here at the beginning of the year as we're all thinking about what we want out of 2026 and maximizing how we spend our time. And I don't want to steal too much from Jude, but what I love about her perspective on time management is we're not getting into checklists or to-do lists or how to process information, right? All of those systems, can be extraordinarily valuable. This is about intentional time management and really how we relate to time. And my hope for everyone is that you pick up something that's new to you in the way that you think about time and you think about your relationship to time and using time as a tool. So really excited for tonight. Thank you all for being here. We have just such amazing attendance, and I'm so excited to see the insights and the breakthroughs that come from tonight. And then I want to hear from all of you as the days and weeks and years go on, how you're applying this to your life and the changes that you're seeing. I know when I really started applying this last year after I heard it at Jude's retreat, things really changed for me. And I felt like 2025 was a year that I was able to use my time better than ever. So I'm really excited to get the refresher and excited for all of you to hear it. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from. If there's anything particular about time that you want to share with us, maybe a pain point or something you're hoping to learn from tonight, share that in the chat. Be active after I do my introduction of Jude and I turn things over to her. I'll be really participating in that chat. So I'm excited to be active in that chat there with you guys tonight. Allow me to introduce to you Dr. Jude Borger. She is a dear friend of mine, someone that I have known in the social media world for many years now and have had the great privilege to get to see in person many times. As I mentioned, I attended a retreat that she hosted last year, which was really special because it was in April. So it was around my birthday time, which was a special treat. Jude is a person who is doing a lot of things in life. And when I think about time management, I want to look to the people that are multifaceted, multifactorial, multidimensional to see, okay, if they're doing all of that in their lives and they're happy and they're successful and they're aligned with their values and they're getting the outcomes that they want, and they're doing so in a way that doesn't sacrifice their self and their health and their travel, that's the kind of person I want to learn about time management from. So let me tell you a little bit about Jude for those of you that she is new to. She is an emergency medicine physician. She also is the founder and owner of an aesthetics medicine practice and really has created a practice in medicine that really suits her life really well. She does some locums, she owns her practice, is still practicing emergency medicine. And it's just so refreshing to see how she's been able to take the trade of medicine and incorporate it into her life in the way that's aligned with her values. She's a wife, she's a mom, she's done extended international travel with her family, which is just so aspirational for me as a mom. As I mentioned, she hosts really amazing retreats. She has several per year that are grounding and nurturing and luxurious and have this amazing coaching layering on top of it so that not only do people leave refreshed, but they leave, as that next version of themselves. She's a sweet, kind person, caring, intuitive, you name it. You guys know I don't invite people onto our platform very often. So when I do, it's a joy when they say yes to come onto the platform. And it is a special person that I've hand chosen to share with all of you. So allow me to turn over the floor to Jude, and let's enjoy tonight and learn about intentional time management and grow as human beings. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. And one thing Jude had mentioned is if you want to grab your calendar, your digital calendar, your pocketbook, pen, paper, however you manage your time, that can be helpful because she's going to have some exercises for us tonight.
Hey,
All right,
everybody. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. I receive all that, and I hope you all get an Elaine to reflect all the things to you that you always wish you are. So thank you very much. Elaine is just amazing. I am so lucky that I joined Freedom and Legacy this year. We've known each other, and it's so fun, I think, to have a relationship too, where you can learn from each other and grow together. And it's just, I mean, you're such a gift to the world. I did have the privilege to teach on manifestation last year in Freedom and Legacy, and I'm so excited to be back talking about time management. And, time management has always been kind of a superpower of mine, if that makes sense. Especially once I started coaching and clarifying my goals and my values. And, so many people see what I'm doing and they're like, you're so busy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I get all this time to hang out with my kids. I spent 7 weeks in Europe. Like, it's freaking phenomenal. So, the idea that I want to convey to you today is that intentional time management is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most to you. And we all have things that matter most to us. And, I don't know, like, you might look at my life and be like, that sounds freaking exhausting, right? And I might look at your life and be like, ooh, I don't want to do this on a Friday night. But it's all on what works for us. So my hope by the end of this is really that you're able to either take away a little 1 degree shift in something you're doing in your life, because that's how we change our lives, right? Like like Elaine said, I still practice clinically and I love practicing clinically, but it's in a way that works for me. And in the same token, I'm not going to give you like time management hacks. I'm not going to give you strategies. I'm not going to give you a rigid schedule template because that is not me. It's really about aligning clarity and sort of self-leadership. And so, as I said, if there's one thing that you pick up, if there's one thing that you think about differently, I think this is a success and it will unfold over time. The other thing is that I think, like with everything in life, and that's why I love that Elaine does quarterly visioning, does yearly visioning, your priorities and your needs in life change. And I think that's sometimes where time management goes awry. It is because you're still trying, and I'm not meaning you personal, but people sometimes kind of make up the schedule. And then some things in their life and their priorities change. And so it's a fluid, constant thing. It's sort of like balance. It needs constant reevaluation as to what in my weekdays, month is working for me and what is not working. So that's the other thing that I invite you to do, is to really be very conscious on how you spend your time and going forward to, not just do things because they've always been done that way, but to really think about in this season of life, because it's seasons of life, is this what serves the highest good of all, meaning my family, myself, and then whoever else you care about. So And again, my goal is that you will leave with some increased clarity, um, and a personalized intention for how you want to experience your days, not just fill your days, experience your days, because that's really what it's about. It's about managing your time intentionally. So when I think about time management, there's two frameworks I want to talk about time. And, one of them is that really time isn't actually scarce. Yes, we have this thought about time is a limited research, and it's true, but it's actually not scarce. Um, you know, it's because you want to be sovereign over your time. You want to decide how to spend this precious resource. So, like everything else, I want you to live from an abundance philosophy in time, meaning you have more control than you think about how you spend your time, and how you spend your time is really how you spend your energy. So, how you spend your time, again, time's not the problem. I talk a lot about self-image, and, a lot of people that I meet that are high achievers unconsciously tie self-worth to productivity. So that's the first thing I see with a lot of physicians. And I just wanted to get that out of the way. That might not be you, but, there is this energetic and like time cost of urgency, of overcommittedness, of being needed. And that's kind of the first thing I want to put out there is that, time really responds to self-leadership. Time doesn't respond to effort. And really how you spend your time is a direct reflection of the subconscious self-image that you have. So how you spend your time is a mirror of how you see yourself. I'm just going to pause here so you can really think about that. Because again, traditional time management fails high achievers because we are kind of like so good at achieving. We're so good at people pleasing. We're so good at hustling, right? Especially like I assume a lot of people here might be either in medicine or other high achieving. A lot of us got where we are by doing all those things, right? Like we were really good at studying extra to get the A, at doing the extra notes, at saying yes to extra shifts. And like society rewarded us for that. So I want to just sort of say that at the beginning of this workshop that the societal culture that gets put on high achievers, and I think especially on women, because women tend to have more people pleasing kind of like societally conditioned into them. And you know, so the default, I think, in high achievers, the default in medicine is really this idea of like emotional labor, over responsibility, and perfectionism. And I love how Elaine talks about the regulated nervous system. And I think it's the opposite of that hustle culture. And because sometimes when we're dysregulated, there is this weird like time compression. And when your nervous system is regulated and you're calm and you're in alignment, time actually expands. Can you just give me like an emoji in the chat if you've ever felt that? Felt that time expanding when you're in flow, when you're aligned, when you're not rushing, when you're not hustling? So that's like the first thing is to sort of understand that time is time, but it's not time. And your experience of time can be very different. And then the other thing that I want to talk about is that whenever we go through these exercises, you know, some of you might be lucky enough to like spend their days on the beach and all of that stuff. But what I always want you to think about when we do these exercises is like, how does that look on any given Tuesday? And I'm just picking Tuesday because it's like the most mundane kind of weekday. I don't want to say how does it look on any Saturday because you might not be working, but how do these principles look on any given Tuesday? So, when we talk about self-image and time integrity, you know, who you are, who you believe you are, kind of determines what you tolerate in terms of demands on your time. So, there's some subconscious identities that some of you might identify with. So, there's the reliable one, right? I'm the one that does everything when everybody else quits. There's the overgiver. I think women are sometimes like really good at being overgivers, but men are too. Then there's the savior, right? Only like I can do this project, or only my patients will only survive if I do this, right? And then there's also a little bit of the prover, the whole idea of like, let me prove you wrong by just hustling my way through that. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. The reason I bring that up is that I'm hoping as I talk about this, like you guys can see a little bit how, again, how we spend our time and how we show up is so linked to some of these subconscious identities and also our self-worth. So, like how many people, and then again, what our culture and our upbringing thought about things like the role of whether you're a woman, a man, a provider, a father, a mother, right? Like who grew up in a society where women were expected to do all the chores and to self-sacrifice, right? Like who grew up in a household where like rest was being seen as lazy and weak? All those things are somewhere unconsciously or subconsciously imprinted in your psyche, and it really takes conscious seeing and conscious like uncoupling to kind of bring them to the forefront and then like release them. And then the other thing, of course, is boundaries, right? As other people in our lives, a lot of times very much benefit from us not having boundaries. We're the only ones that benefit from our boundaries. Everybody else in our life benefits from us not having boundaries, including hospital systems, bosses, project managers, really, sometimes even our spouses, right? So as we go through this is sort of the first time that I'm going to stop. And I want to just ask you before we even look at your calendars, we're going to take a couple minutes. And I want you to really think about regarding things like overgiving, roles that might have to do with time management. What did my upbringing, my family of origin, or my society kind of teach me about who I'm supposed to be in relation to time? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and I would love for you to just really start there. What subconscious identities might I have in relation to time? And like I said, my family of origin, my society, sort of any of the conditioning that comes from those around you, how were you taught about how you're supposed to spend your time and energy? I'm going to just put a little bit of piano music on and give you a couple minutes. Alrighty, I'm gonna just read some of the answers on the chat because I think they're awesome. And keep working while there's work to be done. Yeah. Be productive and fill your days. Are you wasting your time and being lazy? There's always more work to do. Sleeping in and resting as lazy. Wasted time you cannot get back. Do something useful with your time. Tomorrow never comes. Um, yeah, I'm from a Marine family. I'm married to a career military guy. It's hard because he does not understand the power of naps like I do. Um, right? Russ is lazy. I'm a hard worker and what would happen? I'm defi sacrifice for the family. Yeah. And it's really interesting too because there's such a cultural ph phenomenon with that. But then if we really look at all of the answers, they're kind of similar across. They're similar across backgrounds, similar across time frames, zones, all of the things. So, now what I would love you to do is I would love for you to kind of look at your calendar and just really like take a look at it and take a look about how you spent the last week, 2 weeks ago, last month, depending on what you have, and think back on how did that feel. And then I want to kind of think about this question again, and I want you to really like look at it and kind of think about like what are the high value activities, what are the low value activities, when did you feel stressed, when did you feel relaxed? And then again, the other idea is like when I look at my calendar and I knew nothing about me, who does it appear that I'm trying to be? And then, like, another way to frame this question, and the reason I always give more than one prompt, because sometimes prompts don't land on people. It doesn't mean you have to, they're all like versions of the same prompt. I just sometimes feel like I say things one way and you're like, I don't know. And then, there's another prompt I give and it might give you to flow more. So the idea when you look at your calendar, is you really look at your calendar and think about, um, you know, when I look at my calendar, who does it appear I'm trying to be? And sort of like another way to ask that question is which version of me is overrepresented in my schedule and which version of me is missing? And then, another way to ask that question is really what roles do I prioritize even when they cost me energy, peace, and presence? And because really the idea is that your calendar is evidence of the identity that you're currently living from. So I'm gonna, yes, music would be great because I'm failing at the music part. And so that would really be the thing. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to look at your calendar. If you don't have your calendar, just think about how last week felt, the week before, and then again, really get in touch with that identity that you're living from. And I would love to know what comes up with that. So we'll give that just like 2 minutes. Alrighty. Okay. Will you again share when you look at your calendar and you look at the identity that's in your calendar? And, I invite you to go deeper. There's nothing wrong with being like, oh, it shows I'm a doctor and a mom. Like, that's not really where we're getting at, right? I invite you to go deeper to say, oh, I see a little bit of somebody who's still trying to prove themselves here. I see a little bit of somebody who's, you know what I mean? Like, or somebody who loves the busy mom identity. Like, let's make it like worth something. And I love all the kind words in the chat. But let me tell you, what did you think about when you looked at your schedule and the identity? Or again, maybe who am I being too much of, or who am I appeared that I'm trying to be? Oh, yeah. I see constantly trying to provide for others. Thank you. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, trying to explore, figure out she's trying to be, do discover. I love that. I waste more time than I care to admit. Yes. So many meetings, death by meetings. Love that. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to keep that. Oh, yeah. most of the things I do aren't scheduled in my calendar. Yes, and we're going to actually go into this in part three. And I love that because my calendar, people are like, it's full, but it really contains everything and it contains the things that I most care about. And yeah, spending all your time as the breadwinner. Perfect. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to take that identity and we're going to kind of dearly hold it and set it over there. And one of the things that I'm going to switch to is a little bit of values-based scheduling because identity and values are very closely linked, right? And there's two kind of like there's two different ways to reveal your values, right? There's ways to reveal your values through energy and aliveness, and there's ways to reveal your values through pain and frustration. And sometimes, like what angers and exhausts us, often points directly to a violated value or a value or something that we're doing that isn't quite aligned with our values. So again, I want you to go back to that same schedule and I want you to just spend like a minute or so. And the things that I want you to look for on your schedule is what on your schedule constantly frustrates or drains me? Where do I feel resentment around my time that I'm having to spend my time this way, right? What feels misaligned or heavy in my current schedule? And when do I feel like when I do it, rushed, compressed, or invisible? So, after looking at our schedule through the identity lens, I would love for you to go back to your schedule and just think about or look for those things of like that anger exhausts you or like suck your energy. So, I would love to spend the next minute or two doing that, where we go back through our schedule and we're going to take that image aside and we're looking at the schedule from a values-based lens of what are the things that sort of are that we're spending that aren't in alignment with our most important values. So what frustrates or drains me? Where do I feel resentment about my time? What feels misaligned or heavy on my schedule? And when do I feel rushed, compressed, or invisible? So basically, what causes that contraction within you? So again, we're going to take a minute or two to do that. Alrighty, so what are some of the things? And I want you all to identify like a couple things on your schedule that, you know, like cause those like violate your values, meaning it causes that contraction, it causes that frustration, it causes that resentment, or as I said, it just makes you feel rushed, compressed, and visible. It's that "Meh." So tell me, what are some of the things that do that on your schedule and your time when you think about it? And it's okay also to unmute and just tell me if you don't want to type. Housework. Okay, I have a good solution for that. Commuting traffic. Okay. Bedtime routine. I think it's the bane of everybody's existence with small children. Perfect. Too many things on the to-do list. Oh, we'll talk about your to-do list. Driving. Okay. Chores. All right. And, we're going to get through that. Perpetual chits 20. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I love those answers and hold on to that because right now we're going to look at the opposite. We're going to look at what are the values. I feel like I'm gonna have to talk to Sarah and Susan because everybody's like, yes, same, same, same. And later I will actually open the floor for coaching. So if anybody wants to talk to me, we can do all that. So the next thing that I want us to think about is the opposite of what we just talked about, is the values that reveal themselves through energy and aliveness. Somebody put in the chat that growth is one of their values, and actually growth is one of my really important values. When I taught prior iterations of this course, I kind of always had people first pick their values, but then most people like pick very generic things like my family, my health, my whatever, which sure they're values, but like, do you value freedom? Do you value stability? Do you value growth? Do you value safety? Like, where are you in this value list, right? So what I want us to look now is that same thing in the calendar, but we're looking at the values that are revealed through like aliveness, not obligation, right? It's what like, when does life feel most alive on any given Tuesday, right? When do you feel most like yourself? What moments leave you energized? What moments make you lose track of time? I'm sorry, what activities leave you energized rather than depleted? What do you crave more of when you have slowed down? And if you had a free day, again, on any given Wednesday, might not be on the beach at the Ritz or at the Miraval, how would you want to how would you want to spend it? So, like we did the contracting values, I want you to now look at your schedule and think about the times that you want to have more of. And that is where the intention comes in. And that's where it's personalized. When do you feel most alive? What are the enjoyable things on your calendar? Or if you don't put it on the calendar, okay, because it sounds like not everybody puts everything on their calendar. Think about the last week or two. What were the things that depleted your energy and your time? Like, for example, and I will tell you this after, but I don't grocery shop. Don't do it. Because I hate grocery shopping. Some other people might be like, oh my God, I love nourishing my family and selecting the vegetables for them. The grocery store gives me anxiety, so I food deliver. It's just like one of those things where things that are important to you might be my nightmare and vice versa. So if it's not on your list, just think about how you, or in your calendar, think about how you actually spend your time and what do you want more of? When do you feel most alive? And really feel into how that felt. And I love these responses that are coming in. We've got dancing, cuddling with cats, traveling, listening to music, being with family. There's a lot of being outside in nature. Somebody wrote floating in the ocean. And I think there's always themes in humanity, right? We might be so different, but there's these common themes, right? That we all love true connection. We all love activities that have us in the presence. And I promise you, doom scrolling is on nobody's list yet. We spent hours doing it, right? So I love that. And the same thing was about sort of the exercise before, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. When I said what's on your calendar, I meant like what did you spend your time on that depleted you? Maybe it's the fact that it wasn't on your freaking calendar and you had to do it, right? So what we're going to do next before we go on the clarity before calendars is I want us all to free up some time. So one of the certifications that I have is Martha Beck's Wayfinder Coaching Certification, and I love Martha. And one of the things that she talks about is that there's this concept called the 3 Bs. If there's something that drains you, I want us all, as a commitment to this workshop, as lasting time, find a way to take some of these things that cause us contraction, pain, and frustration, and there's one of 3 things we're going to do with it, right? And it's the 3B. It's the bag, barter, or better it. Okay. So bag is easy, right? Like somebody was saying, I have to do everything or my husband doesn't do it. And that might very well be true. But sometimes we take a lot of responsibility for things that aren't actually ours to carry, right? Like when I go travel, I do not care what my children eat at home. I do not care if they wear matching outfits. I do not even care if my daughter doesn't brush her hair for an entire week, okay? Because I get to do what I want to do, and he's going to do what he wants to do anyway, right? So, like, instead of me being like, oh my God, why does this outfit not match? Listen, I can come back from like a week being gone, and there'll be like four things in the laundry. While when I'm there, apparently everybody goes to 3 outfits a day. Somehow, when I'm gone, like nobody changes their clothes. But guess what? I'm in London working with my coach. The kids are okay. They'll survive. Like, just bag it, take it off my list, right? Same thing we talked about grocery shopping. Somebody talked about chores. Um, some of the stuff that we think needs to get done actually doesn't need to get done or doesn't need to get done by us. Like, yes, maybe somebody else might do B plus work or maybe even C plus work, but will it be okay? Sometimes that's micromanaging other people and taking on things that aren't ours. And then also, I think sometimes we enable people in our lives to not make their own decisions because either we just take care of it and that's easier for them, or they're like, oh, like June has a very specific way she wants this done. If I don't do it her way, she's going to be frustrated. So let me not even try. So certain things you can actually stop caring about and stop wasting energy and time on without anything bad happening, right? So that's bag. Um, barter. As physicians, we have an amazing power no matter how much we make and not make. And even if you're not a physician, you know, there's a lot of people we can hire to do a lot of the things that we don't actually want to do. Like I've now told you, I don't actually like shopping for groceries, right? It's a delivery fee. It's a little bit more expensive, but I don't have to spend my time going into the grocery store. The same with cleaners. Like I'm employing people and being nice to them and, giving them a job at a fair wage to clean. Like everybody wins. And I don't have to, I don't have to clean for a while. I even paid somebody to do my laundry for me. Unfortunately, she moved away. But, like there's a lot of things you could actually outsource. And again, it might be B plus work, but it's okay. And then the third thing is to better it, right? If there's things you can't get off your plate, how can we actually make them better? I pay a service to pick up my dog poop. That's a perfect example, right? Like you don't want to spend your Sunday, your kids are old enough that you can't make it their chore anymore. So you pay a service. Everybody wins, right? Some high schoolers making extra money. Um, or to better it. And that's things like, unfortunately, like right now, I can't afford to, do X, Y, and Z. So I hate driving, but what if when I have my daughter in the car, we play this new game that is like, would you rather? And we're trying to have this connection and we're laughing and versus her being on her phone, being silent, we use this time for connection. Or, like I told you, somebody was doing my laundry and unfortunately she moved away and my current people only want to do it when they clean. So every other week I have to fold my laundry. But what we started doing is like I started putting on the TV in my bedroom and I make my kids help, and it's actually like not that bad. It's been a weird way that we just watch the movie there and I fold the laundry and I make my kids help me, and it's like actually fine. Like it's something we do for an hour on a Sunday. So looking at all the things that you spend your time doing that restrict you. I would want you to like really think about some concrete strategies you can take away of one to whatever activities that you're either going to bag, meaning stop caring about them, you're going to better, or you're going to barter. So again, I'm going to give you some time and I want you to go through your own time and think about where can we free up time? Because that's the other thing. If we do intentional time management, a lot of times it's doing less of the things we don't want to do to give us time to do more of the things we want to do. So let's see if we can take one or two or three. And you know what? The other thing about once you start doing that, it becomes addictive. It's like your energy doesn't tolerate it anymore and you're like, oh, I hate this, how could I get like, it becomes a thing, or you're like, oh, I don't really enjoy that, how can I just like not do this anymore? So start with picking one or two things. Or if your kid's playroom drives you crazy, would it be worth hiring like an organizer for a day? So let's go talk about it, and I want to hear something that you can take away that you can put into actual next steps. Oh, bag, better, or barter. Yes, so you either bag, stop it, you make it better by, like listening to a podcast while you vacuum, or, your favorite coaching call with Elaine, or barter is essentially like, or trading chores with your husband, right? If you're like, I hate this chore, maybe he won't mind it, and can we try to resplit the responsibilities? Can I make it a kid's chore? It's the big trick once your kids are older. You make it be their chore. And I think the same goes at work sometimes for those of us who are our entrepreneurs, is also what could I make somebody else's responsibility if I don't love it? Does it really need my time and energy? All righty, perfect. So I just wanted to highlight, I love what Namita said, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but I love that you're saying I do chores and calls during walks because walks are really important to me. And, one of these other things is like a lot of time people said they didn't love their time driving. So you don't have your teenager in the car, that it's really just one-on-one time that you connect with. Maybe this would be a time where you call your mom and your aunt and you get to chat with them because you don't normally have time, or you do as I said, I love listening to podcasts and coaching call recordings and self-help stuff. So like my driving time is my time to do that. But I just wanted to say, Namita, I love that. And that's a perfect example. Letting go of the right way to unload the dishwasher. Absolutely. Because who really cares? Yeah, hiring a guy to do the lawn work and he does it in 15 minutes and it took us 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, if something's still dirty, like listen, that is totally the thing. Yeah, paying bills and delegating to the VA. Yeah, exactly. Found it's a great talking time. So I want you to, I hope, like, give me a thumbs up or heart that there's one thing at least you identified in how you've spent your time that you're going to take as a change from this. Because I love that we're already doing this, but remember, there's always ways we can free up our time more. It sounds like lots of people have great practices that they're sharing, and there's always things that we can maximize how we spend our time. And it sounds like a lot of us, like, again, we want connection, we want presence, we want all of the things. Yeah, hire somebody to clean my house regularly, like life changing, life changing. Um, yeah, I got some hearts, I got some thumbs up. So really like identify something. I mean, of course, it can be more than one thing. And this is where I kind of love doing in-person workshops, because then we can break up in small groups and people can really share what their strategies are. And I give you like printed calendars and we can look at all of those things. But again, for taking something away, in order to get more of the things that you want to do, you have to sort of let go of the things that drain your time. And like I said earlier, it's kind of crazy how alignment and values alignment and expansion kind of becomes your um becomes a state that you get so comfortable with that when that gets violated, once you start doing this, you're going to be on this roll to just be like, wait, that was so easy. I can hire somebody to do this. Wow, what else can I hire them for, right? And most of us have this huge advantage that no matter where we are financially, that there is some wiggle room where we don't have to trade our time for what we don't want to do. Okay, I'm trying to let go of the fear of missing out to get some of the things and papers. Oh, yes, draining your time, draining your energy, decluttering is so important. Okay, so now that we have that, um, what we're going to do is before we kind of look at our calendars again, I want to talk about sort of clarity before calendars. And how many of you have done Elaine's kind of vision processing? I assume it's a lot of you seeing that most of you probably came from, I recognize some of the names. So the idea is to develop a vision for how you live your life, a vision for how you spend your time, and to do a vision-led scheduling versus an obligation-led schedule. Because sometimes, what people and I think I heard those themes in the chat earlier on. People will be like, okay, then I have to do the dentist, then I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do that. And that's like obligation-led scheduling. Vision-led scheduling is really this idea of of the creator of your life. So we're going to, schedule a future from a vision that you have. So, you've already looked at your past identity. We all have an identity that we're stepping into or that we're stepping more into. Again, we're always becoming, we're always evolving, we're always changing. So, what identity is that you see yourself? What's the vision that you have for your time? And then, again, when we think about this, and this is the next prompt, it's distilling your true core values. So, first of all, from all the things that we've done so far, what themes of what I want keep repeating? What values feel like the ones that I really essentially want? And, you know, if my life was a vision, an identity, a statement, like what would it stand for? So that's what I want you to journal on next, is sort of this vision-led scheduling, this next version that I'm becoming. How does he or she schedule their time, and what's kind of becoming clear now that I'm seeing everything? And if that seems too aspirational, we can also think about what are some of the top values we want to live from. So we can think about it from an identity standpoint. That's where we started. And if it's easier for you to schedule according to values, you can think about it from a value standpoint, because for some people, one or the other might be. So vision-led scheduling. My vision of my time in this season of life. All right. I would love to have some of the visions of your time, of your schedule, or the values of your time and your schedule, whichever one you identify more with. Love that. More rest time, more time to create, more time to honor my body and be present. That's actually the next prompt. I love that you got us there. Anybody else? Yeah, we want this different pace to life, right? When we think about this overcommitted and this hustle and all this conditioning, what we really want is to kind of let go and slow down and connect and be present. And the crazy thing is that when you do that, time opens up. Like, right? We think that we get more done and it's great. And sometimes it feels awesome to be productive, like, don't get me wrong. But that can't be like your nervous system state all the time because what we really crave is this idea to rest, to be present. And I love this from Elaine. Um, yes, thinking about the areas we have highly trained team members handling many things and true like more systems and more training and yes, time in my calendar for the things that energize and fill me, right? Making the weekends count. And wanting to be present with the ones that those that you love. And that's the idea to manage your time and energy so I'm not so drained when I have time with them. So that's the idea. But how do we get the energy? The first thing is what we did last, and I really want to challenge you. And I would love to hear feedback, even if it's 2 weeks down the road, 3 months down the road, being like, you know what? That vision workshop, I decided to finally like stop caring about X, Y, and Z and stop spending my entire Saturday morning doing this grumbling. And it's been great because now I go stand up paddleboarding every Saturday. Nothing would bring me more joy because that is the next prompt. What are the non-negotiables we're going to schedule into your schedule? So that is where you really get to go wild with identifying non-negotiables. And the things that we're talking about is rest, creativity, and embodiment that we're going to start scheduling. So what are the non-negotiables? Rest, creativity, and embodiment that we're going to schedule into our schedule. Because really, your peak energy is a luxury asset. All righty, what are some of your non-negotiables that we're going to put in there? And, somebody earlier said that they don't schedule most of the things that they do in their day. And I think that you should absolutely schedule all the things that you do in your day. And again, when we create a schedule, yes, meditation, exercise, connection, with friends, family, and self, I'm terrified of being constrained by time. The interesting thing about that, though, is that every time you build a schedule, we reevaluate and learn. Right? I think most of us feel like a schedule is like the thing we do in clinic or the thing that somebody else sets it for you. But a schedule can actually be the most freeing thing ever. So, as if I have longer, I normally hear talk about energetic time blocking, which we're not going to get into. But then the one thing I'm going to say before we put together like a new version of your schedule in the last part, one of the things I want to talk about is the white space as wealth. I definitely am a firm believer of having unscheduled time, and we talk about white space. It's the whatever I want time, whether you want to read, whether you want to garden, whether you want to yoga, whether you want to like have a cup of coffee with your dog on the couch. So white space is super, super important. And at the same time, I want to talk about really releasing guilt around rest. In the first societal conditioning, as a whole, we're told that rest is bad. And I'm just going to go through some affirmation statements that say the opposite, just to maybe give you one that resonates with you, that when you feel that little like your immigrant mother pop up to be like, why are you being lazy on a Saturday morning? You can sort of, or your Marine dad, you can sort of be like, wait, there's something. Um, what is energetic time blocking very briefly? It basically is energetic time blocking matches tasks to energy states, not time. And it kind of talks about peak energy timing. It's a great concept. However, it takes a little bit more flexibility and a little bit of time to know your own peak energy states. But we can always go through that at another time. So, as we're talking about rest, I'm just going to read some affirmations and I want you to write down any and kind of borrow them that resonate with you. So, rest is productive. I deserve to recharge. I'm honoring my needs. I'm a human, not a machine. I give myself permission to rest and recharge. I deserve to take care of myself just as much as I care for others. My energy is valuable and I honor it by resting when I need to. I'm worthy of rest and rejuvenation. Rest is an essential part of my success and well-being. By caring for myself, I'm able to show up more fully for others. Rest is not laziness, it's a necessary part of my mental health. I'm a human being, not a human doing. I don't need to be productive to be worthy. I am present in my rest without worrying about what I should be doing. It's okay to slow down and find my own pace. I let go of guilt and embrace self-compassion and stillness. So when that little voice that you were told as whatever you rolled pops up, I want you to have some counter arguments. And so, let me tell you now about how I make my schedule, just as an example. And I first make a monthly schedule and then I break it down in a weekly schedule. And again, after that, we're going to work with you on your own schedule, even just making tiny tweaks. And again, this is over time. Maybe for next week, nothing will change, but then 3 weeks from now, something will change. Yeah, so that's perfect. You started scheduling time with your friend. Um, and so, and the reason I first make my monthly schedule is because I'm actually very much in control of what days do I work in my office. I agree to pick up a couple ER shifts, but then everything else I self-schedule. So, I look at the month, I look at the weeks, I look at the flow of things, and I do schedule days off every week, midweek. Like this week, Tuesday was my day off, and then I'm taking the whole weekend off. It's a busy week for me because I had to make up for being sick next week, but that feels like a busy week, meaning like I only have one day during the week off. But so I schedule sort of what I'm doing roughly in terms of work, non-work, whatever, in the week. So it looks like nice and spacious. And then, I then go through the week and I schedule some of my non-negotiables, like when I get to drop off and pick up my kids. Because I actually really love dropping off and picking up my kids. For some of you, that might be, oh my God, I got to sit in the car line, blah, blah, blah. And if you're one of those people, like, don't drop off and pick up your kids. But it was in my vision a couple years ago when I was working more in the ER, like that was one of my vision goals was to be that mom that gets to drop off and pick up her kids like a lot of days. And until that changes, I will go and drop off and pick up my kids. And I ask them about their days and I get to hear all the class gossip and I just love it. But that's just me, right? And the same thing, like I love doing this at night and I'll do like one coaching call, but for private coaching, a podcast or something, I'm generally not available at night. And then, I schedule my non-negotiables like my Pilates classes. I make sure that there is like white space in there, that I have a couple hours of whatever I feel like doing into that thing. So I think, and then the things that really need to be done, I also schedule them. And I think that's a really important thing to do because sometimes if you have this huge to-do list, you feel like every time you have free time, you should be working on the to-do list. But I know exactly that on Tuesdays or next, like for example, this week, I have to like approve my payroll before I run it because it's just in the state that I'm business and I still look over and approve my payroll. So, instead of being like, this is what I need to do, it's scheduled. So, Tuesday at 11:30, I approve my payroll, which means that on Monday, when it's 6 p.m., even though my payroll is sitting in my inbox, I have a time to do this. So on Monday, it doesn't bother me. Do you see what I'm saying? Half of it is like, first of all, some of this never-ending to-do list never has to be done. But if you knew, oh, you know what? This laundry is getting folded on Sunday. The laundry pile on Saturday doesn't affect you because it's scheduled for Sunday. So I think so first of all, there's a lot of things on your to-do list that, let's be real, won't get done. So why even pretend they're gonna get done, right? Like those things that kind of get carried on the to-do list, like some of this you just got to be like, either make somebody else's problem. I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to hire somebody to do it. Because I think that's the other thing about lots of people were talking about to-do lists. To-do lists are kind of guilt. And that's also what takes us in the present moment because, like, I love Saturday naps. I'm a napper. I love Saturday naps. But, like, I have time on Saturday after, like, my daughter's basketball game. Um, you know, exactly. If it's on the schedule, it doesn't have to do on the to-do list. Yes, I have a to-do list, but the things that are really important, I schedule time for. For example, like if I have to, for this workshop, I had to, of course, give Elaine like a little description. Those are like the paperworky things that we all have to do. And so sometimes, like that time that we're supposed to be spending with our kids, that we're supposed to go hike, the temptation, if it's not scheduled, is to sort of be like, oh my God, instead of doing this, I really have to get this workshop description to Elaine. I have to approve my payroll. I have to sort out the clothes. But if you said, you know what, I always get to clinic half an hour before I do anyway. So that's only going to take me 20 minutes. I'll do it Tuesday morning. You know what? On Saturday, if your daughter wants to bake cookies, you don't have to be like, oh, mommy has to do this. You can kind of say, everything that needs to be done has a time to be done. So, unfortunately, there's certain things that at this point in time, we can't immediately change, right? Like I have, after years and years, an incredible flexible schedule in the sense that every month I get to decide when to work and when not to work. Now, once I then give my clinic the days and I open up my schedule for booking, that changes. But I have created an incredible life of flexibility for myself. You might be obligated at this point in time to work 3 days a week on set days that the employer says. So obviously we can't change that. And I just want to acknowledge that. However, there's a lot more that you have control of. You have control of when you go to bed. You have control of what you do first thing in the morning, how you spend your days off, and also like with the time that you have, how to be present. So what I would love for you all to do is to really take, and we're going to take like 10 minutes or so to look at your next week and make an improved version of your schedule. And those things that are important to you will get scheduled on the schedule. And the things that you have to get done, I want you to schedule them on the schedule so you decide ahead of time. Because again, then it doesn't become this guilt looming over you that takes you out of the present because you can be like, oh, wait, this deadline for that is on Friday. I'm gonna do it Wednesday at 3. Okay, so this whole weekend I can enjoy without worrying about it versus being like, oh, I have this deadline due, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna, hopefully Elaine will give you more music, but we're gonna literally spend the next 10 minutes of designing your next level calendar. And, I want you to create your week, your month, your whatever you can, and create that week that creates your peace a little bit more, your power a little bit more, because your calendar is the evidence of the identity that I'm living from. It's almost like a vision board every week where you're like, okay, Monday morning, we're gonna get up, and then, I'm gonna drive my kids to school. And then, you know what? I have time to put in a Pilates class before I go to my office. I'll work in my office, I'll pick up the kids. It's basketball, blah, 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 whatever it might be, right? Just giving you my boring life. And then, oh, Tuesday is my day off. Like, I have 3 hours to do whatever I want to do. Oh, and then I probably want to get my nails done, blah, 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 right? And then I don't have to worry about it because it's Wednesday that I'm scheduling 2 hours to do my payroll, give my tax accountant person. So up until Wednesday, I'm not bothered by that. Okay. And really be creative too about maybe even living from that future self that's given up on some of the time drains. And then as you do your calendar or maybe add or subtract things, I want you to really feel what it feels like in your body. Does it feel spacious? Does it feel crammed? Because your calendar should support you. It should not punish you. And I think that's why so many people have sort of this reaction to your calendar that it feels like somebody's telling you what to do, but it's really like your most loving, caring higher self that has your vision in mind, that has your highest identity for the good of all in mind, that's helping you design your calendar. And then again, I would love, as you're wrapping up, for people to drop into the chat or unmute and tell me, oh, you can't do that because you're not a host, but drop into the chat on like, who's making like extra time, who's making changes, who's scheduling like these non-essentials so they can really look forward to those versus being like, oh, I hope I make it to the gym. I hope I make it to my walk. If the laundry doesn't take too long. Because how beautiful would it be to be like, no, Saturday morning, we're going on a hike, and guess what? This laundry gets to do done. And you know what? Even my like little kid can actually help fold things. It's surprising how that happens when they have to. And you know what? Some days they just pull their clothes out of the laundry basket and everybody survives. The clean laundry basket, that is, and everybody survives. So I would love to hear some of your takeaways, reactions on all of that in the chat. Oh, the other thing I want to say about rest is I also hate the idea of earning rest. You lead from rest. You don't earn rest. It's not something to be earned. It's something to lead from. And then also, think about your calendar as evidence of the identity that you're living from. So whenever you vision, the way you design your time is really that vision come to life. And yeah, a lot of times time pressures from your own self-pressure. Oh, I love it. You scheduled a lady doc lunch, coffee with a friend, and workouts. Yes, let's celebrate you. That's amazing. All right, who else scheduled some fun things? That's right, you're going to fill your bucket so much. Yeah, your spiritual learning time. Love that. So important. Yeah. Time blocking to get more time for deep work and less time in email admin work. I feel like, especially at your stage in life, That is so important. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. You don't have flexibility in your schedule right now. And that's what I want to acknowledge, right? That little changes over time matter. So the self-care that you need, exercise, bedtime, time to read, dog walks, dinner with my husband. Yes, coffee and puzzle time. I love it. Yes, to wake up excited for something relaxing. That sounds really good. I'll come over and do coffee and puzzles with you. High quality sleep. I want to say that it's so important. And I actually have a little YouTube series on like, you know, sort of breaking up with social media and stop doom scrolling. Like if there's one thing we all need to do is just go to frickin' bed. Yes, I love the idea of scheduling in the fun things that energize me and including my husband's breaking future tasks into pieces as check-ins. That is, I totally agree. Like, taxes suck, but it'll feel so much better if you go like, okay, this Saturday, my husband and I are just gonna frickin' suck it up and go through all of our statements and all of our things and put it together because then all of the Saturdays before, you're not gonna have it looming over you because it has its dedicated space. Yes, making a plan for the weekends. I love this. So, there's a couple things that I'm going to say as we wrap up. So, number one, I schedule time each week to make my schedule for the next week. So, that is really the one thing that has to be on your schedule, is because you want to keep living with intention. And again, for me, this is almost like a vision where I really feel into what is it gonna look like, right? Like I love sitting down actually on one of my days off. Like I just did it this Tuesday. It doesn't have to be a Sunday, it's an arbitrary day. And I just really look at the things and it's almost like a planning time for me. It feels delicious. It feels fun because I'm like, ooh, what if this Tuesday I did this? Ooh, that sounds good. And, also acknowledging the realities of life. Like, for example, the next 2 days, I'm working 12-hour shifts that I picked up, but I work like two of them a month. So I'm not going to complain, but it's really my future self and my current self that has decided, look, I like keeping my board certification. I like the little bit of extra money. I'll suck up the 2 days. It's not going to be that fun, but I'll be okay. But then the next day, I'm like, you know what, Saturday, I'll probably take a nap and make some cookies with my kids because what else do we need, right? And so have dates with yourself and then, continuously reevaluate what works and what didn't work. Because again, your schedule, you shouldn't look at your calendar and be like, oh my God, this feels so bad because it's 7:15 coffee, 7:35 workout, 8:15 this, like, right? It's not a punishment. It's the higher self. And every week, you're gonna look at the week before and be like, what felt spacious, what felt kind of necessarily but okay, and how do I want to learn from that, right? And there's going to be times when you overschedule, and then there's going to be times where you thought you were going to be able to go floating in the ocean. Instead, one of your kids like breaks their tooth and you have to take them to the dentist. Like life will life and life will happen. But what I really invite you is to have a process where you look at the week that just happened and kind of think about again the same process that we did. It doesn't have to be all these prompts, but where did I live from my values? What was in alignment? And going forward, what can I change? What can I make more intentional to align with how I want to spend my time, to align with who I am today, and to align with the values that I want to lead from? This is a process. And like a lot of things, there's going to be weeks that will still feel hectic. And there's going to be weeks where you feel that openness and that freedom. And once you feel it, like that feeling becomes addictive because your nervous system will feel so prepared. It'll feel so calm. And my hope is really that you take even just one little tidbit that I said, one little tool, one little prompt, one little affirmation, and you use it and you let it percolate and you let it build. Because again, it's little 1 degree changes and your life ends up somewhere completely different. You know, when you go on a map and you change your course by even 1 degree, where you end up is completely different. Now, I love talking about time management. I hope this worked for you. It's a little weird for me that I couldn't see anybody, because normally I host a lot of in-person events and I love the interaction. I loved you being able to look at your stuff. I love the sharing. So I hope that you were able to take something from this. I'm always available if you want to talk to me. I obviously love feedback. The good, the bad, the ugly, like we're all learning, we're all growing. I want to make this as valuable for you as possible. But as I send you out in the world, that is really what I want to say. Please like schedule time to look at your next week, month with intention, and then continuously reevaluate what feels spacious to you, what feels aligned, what feels expansive, and then little by little, maybe get rid of the stuff that contracts you. Um, yeah, I want to just leave you with that. You know, your time is sacred because you are. I think that is really my takeaway, that I want you to really embody that. Like, my time is sacred because I am sacred and your life is sacred. So, for the highest good of all, um, this is all that I have for you today. I could go on forever. I would love to, first of all, answer any questions that um, anybody wants to know. She says, do your pitch. Okay, my pitch is that, as I said, I love in-person events. I love in-person workshops. I love going deep. I love really creating transformation. So my coaching these days really is mainly limited to hosting retreats because that's my magic. That's what I love to do. And that's where I've just seen like the arc of transformation. I'm hosting an amazing CME retreat at the Merrill in at the end of April into May. That if anybody would love to come, I would love to invite you all. Elaine is putting in, we're still in early bird. I kind of extended the early bird because of this for like another week. And again, it's CME through Pinnacle. I have amazing coaches coaching. It's all workshop based. So I'm doing a quantum success ritual. I have Laura Salio really talking about creativity and how to embody fun and creativity in your life. And then I don't know if anybody knows Maggie Rice. She's one of the leading relationship coaches in the world. And every time she coaches anywhere, she was like our highest rated coach. And she's actually talking about letting go and relationships and how to move on with relationship in a way that honors everybody, to kind of get you unstuck. And then if you haven't been to the Miraval, it's the absolute in luxury in nervous system regulation. We have rooms at over 50% off, list prices for that time of the year. It's CME not only for physicians, but other healthcare professionals, and you don't have to be a physician to go. Every year, we already have non-physicians also signed up. I really believe in belonging, and especially in these themes. You know, sometimes I think as physicians, we think we live on an island. And then it's so interesting when you talk to a realtor, a lawyer, a photographer, and they're going through the same thing. It's the shared humanity. So it's going to be an absolutely incredible retreat. It's a business expense. So please, please, please consider joining us. Oh, yeah. I'm already going. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I can't believe Maggie's talking about letting go. Whose iPhone? I know you're going, and I'm so excited that you're going, but I don't know who iPhone is. You don't have a name. But anyway, oh, Naran, yes, Naran is going. So like again, I'm here for open coaching. I'm here to answer all your questions. I would love to invite you to my retreat in April. The other retreats that I do is I do deep healing retreats using ketamine. So it's very different. It's in the North Carolina mountains, where it's really a lot about inner child healing, nature, trauma processing with ketamine, and it's incredible in its own little way. So those are two big things that I'm focusing on for my coaching because again, like we talked about time management, I really dialed in my coaching practice. Where do I feel the flow? Where do I feel the connection to the divine? Where do I feel my gifts? So for this year, I'm, except for some VIP one-on-ones, only focusing on retreats because that's my love, that's my magic. So I would love for you to experience them. And until then, I am open. If anybody wants to have questions answered, wants to be coached, you just let me know.
So amazing. I need to find look in my notebook where I have my notes from last year, but this year I took 6.5 pages of notes and journaling and visioning and answering on the prompts and just thank you so much. Like even as the host, I got so much out of this, so much to just think about, right? Like time is the substance that our life is made of. It's the substance through which we create our visions. That's why I feel like our work here is just so aligned and just so grateful to have you for this masterclass. I can't tell you how much I got out of it. And I trust that everyone attending as well did based on the chat and our attendance tonight. I attended Jude's retreat at Miraval last year. As I said, it was right around my birthday, which was really special. Really wonderful retreat at Miraval, which is just this beautiful location that Miraval itself already has spa treatments and classes and yoga. All of the food is included. Like Miraval itself is a very special place. And then to layer on top of that, Jude's coaching and the coaches that she brings into the retreat is really just a magical experience. I think, Jude, I think you're doing 4 weeks of coaching
Yes,
before.
that's the
Yeah.
other thing. Yep, we're doing pre-retreat coaching to kind of get the ball rolling, to get you in the thing, to, start the transformation and also to build that community so that when you show up at the Miraval, and the other thing is one of my core values when we talk about core values is belonging. So, my goal with everything that I do, and maybe that's also why I love in person, is that it's gonna be like you come into a big hug. If you're not a hugger, that's okay, but like energetically.
I loved that last year, getting to like do the pre-work and getting to meet the people. And then yeah, you just feel like when you get to that retreat, like there's none of that like weird icebreaker type energy. That was so good. I'll be joining as one of the coaches beforehand. I so wish I could get to this in-person retreat, but I'll be very, very, very pregnant with baby Elizabeth. But I'll be joining as one of the pre-coaches and teaching on body set and a calming nervous system ritual. I popped the link into our Zoom chat here. So take a look at that. We'll make sure that that link is also in the replay email. As Jude mentioned, it's a women's retreat available to physicians, non-physicians. There is CME available. So share it with the people in your lives. There's such a special thing. Last year, I went with two other friends, which was just really nice to have like our little mini community inside of that bigger retreat community. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about this retreat because it was just such a big impact on my life last year and excited to coach for it this year. Again, I would be there if I literally wasn't like 37 and a half weeks pregnant with Elizabeth, but probably a bad decision to be traveling from home that close to delivery. So the next best thing I could do was invite all of you so that if I can't experience it firsthand, all of you can and can enjoy it. If anyone would like to get some one-on-one coaching with Jude right now, it can be a Q&A, it can be a longer thing. I would just promote you up to panelist, and then you'd be able to be more of like a Zoom room where you'd be able to have your camera and audio on, and we'd love to have a couple minutes here for any Q&A or coaching that's coming up. If anyone has a question, you can pop that into chat, or if you'd like to come on for coaching, just pop that into the chat and I will promote you to panelist. Give a minute or so for questions or a volunteer to, if you want to raise your hand. you have any questions about the retreat, you could pop those into chat. Jude, why don't you pop your contact information, or if people had questions about the retreat, how they would reach you, put that into
Yeah, and
chat.
I do think we have a hand up, at least
Oh,
one.
okay, you're right. Yep, good
Hang on,
call there.
yes. So I'm very like one of
Oh,
the ways
Quay,
you can
yeah.
find me is on Instagram at Dr. Borger. And then my email is borgercoaching@gmail.com. And I know that Elaine's team will also like, oh, and then I have a podcast called the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. That's on all major platforms where I kind of combine life coaching with life and aesthetics. So yes, and yeah, and you can always reach out to me through direct messenger, through email. Not everybody's into life coaching, and sometimes there might be a thing that's not even coming up now, but in the future. All right,
All right.
hey,
Well, yeah,
Quay.
Quay raised her hand, and I have her
I
spotted
love that
here.
you're brave. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'll
thank
remove the
you so
spotlight and
much.
let the two of you have a conversation and do some coaching. And then
Thank
I
you
see
so
I see at
much.
least one written question in the chat. We'll get to those as well tonight.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. I really do appreciate it. And I'm working very hard on trying to manage my time better and to do time blocking for, I find that I'm always so busy like doing the work, right? And that I need time to do the sort of thinking time, the CEO sort of thinking, visioning, planning and my the growth of my business as opposed to, working. So I've started blocking that kind, I call it CEO time,
I love that.
thinking time. I've started blocking, exercise, health, it's really important. Um, but what I always get sucked into is let me do this little quick thing first, and then I'll get to, the CEO thinking time, the big picture time. And the thing that always drags me down the rabbit hole is emails. I just cannot figure out how to manage my emails. I have three of them, and I'm always like, okay, let me just go through this really quickly. And I just really struggle with that because it zaps my time before I know it, like a half an hour has passed, and I haven't gotten to, the real important things.
Let
So,
me ask you a question. Do you schedule time to do your email?
no, that's just, that's such a like easy answer, and it never occurred to me.
Well, I'm
Um,
just asking, right? Because it's one of those things, it's like that same thing when you have a to-do list, right?
yes. Mhm.
It's like and the other thing is sometimes our body tries to protect us by doing the low resistant things first, right? Like that's where doom scrolling goes on. We all know we shouldn't be doom scrolling, but it's just easy, right? And it's dopamine hits and blah, blah, blah. And before we know it, we do it. Now, I think sometimes email, and again, our phones are set up that it's ding, 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 notification, notification, like blah, 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 right? There's a couple things you could do with your email. And let's be real, a lot of email isn't that necessary, right? So first of all, I don't know if in the stage of business that you're at, you actually have somebody that you could help with email management. Like a lot of people that have businesses that are entrepreneurs actually use a VA that sort of pre-combs your email. And so instead of you having 250 emails, they might say like, oh, look, there's 3 emails that actually need your attention. So that would be, I'm just suggesting things, is so number one, I know a lot of people that do like, pre-email things like outsource part of their email because you could share some of your email with somebody else. And a lot of the stuff, like we all get spams, I get so many cold calls, I get like all the stuff. But then number two is to also say, look, clearly this email thing I'm not accounting for. So what if I said there's a half hour each day that I dedicate to my email? And then whatever doesn't get done, like doesn't get done. Or, so I'm just giving you a couple ideas, like either make the schedule time email. And honestly, a lot of the email time, I feel like is a lot of like deleting things and like triaging things, right? So
Yes.
like some of that could also be like a time when you're like, oh, I'm spending 15 minutes each day sitting in the pickup line at my kid's school. Maybe I can spend those 15 minutes just deleting emails. Could I
Well, those
do my
days
VA?
are beyond me. I'm an empty nester, so
Well,
I
I'm
wish
just saying,
some of
like,
those.
right? Like, I don't know while you're like
Yes, I know.
20-minute dinner cooks. Like, while that's in the oven, will I just say I'm gonna sit down and do my email? And then, it's hard because the other thing I'm telling you is that so number one, it sounds like you need some dedicated email time or a dedicated email person,
Yeah.
right? Or, the other thing that what I was saying, dedicated email time or dedicated email person, or really also like realizing that for your body, visioning and going deep is a higher energy expenditure activity. So you really, this is where somebody talked about energetic time blocking. So you want to actually match CEO time to a time when your energy state is high. So for some people, it's right upon awakening, like for most people, if I did this after I worked a day in clinic and cooked dinner and took care of my dogs and my aging grandmother, like that's not good CEO time. Your body might also trick you into like the email equivalent of doom scrolling, where it feels like energetically too draining. So it's just easier to click on emails. So the other thing I wanted to say, other than like the email situation that I would definitely either outsource it or schedule time, is to make sure that things like CEO time, meditation time, thinking time are matched to an energetic state where you and your body are able and willing to be rested enough that you can really be creative.
Mhm.
How does that resonate?
Oh no, that's well, first of all, I do have a VA and she has a separate email from me that I send her but I guess I have to think about I would have to train her to tell her what emails are really important, that I need to respond to, and which emails she could go in and just delete. Because I spend a lot of time deleting stuff. Like I don't read the CNN email, so I need to unsubscribe to that or whatever.
Well,
But
she could do that.
right, exactly. And so also, I think what's help I turn off all my notifications because I don't want the dinging in my head all
Perfect.
day. So then I think I have to schedule time to go into my phone, look at my emails, look at my messages or whatever. So and just make sure I think I need to be more disciplined in whatever time I've scheduled for a specific task, do that task during that time.
And you know what?
So
The other thing is like nobody actually dies by email.
mm,
Email is also like with everybody putting us on mailing lists and being able to be like, hey, can I get you funding? Hey, I want to sell you the service. Like it's also become like a time suck.
yeah,
So, I said I wasn't going to go into like all of the productivity hacks, but I do think it would be really important to like be very mindful of, as I said, unsubscribing to stuff you don't want, and then really sort of just superficially starting to prioritize what you want to keep, or, like making that time investment where you teach you. But yeah, and you know what? Initially, it might be one of those things that she might ask you more questions than not. But still, wouldn't you rather have her ask you about like 10 emails and you really only need to respond to 5?
yeah.
Versus like going through 800 emails, right? Like, and like honestly, nobody dies by email. If she accidentally deletes an email that you were meant to get, chances are they're gonna be like, "Hey, Dr. Watkins," or you know, um, we sent you an email 2 weeks ago, we didn't hear from you, and you just go, oh, oops, it got filtered in the wrong inbox. I'm so sorry. Let me respond now. Like,
Thank
nobody
you.
dies by email, right?
Thank you. So I'm a Juris Doctor. So I'm the attorney. My husband is the physician. That's how I get into these groups. He's an ortho trauma surgeon. So thank you. I will, like I find the physicians are my people, So I have so many physician friends. So thank you. But this is very helpful. I really appreciate it. So thank you
And
so
then I think the last thing that I do want to say, and I want to reiterate that because I think it's really important, if you have something like a CEO time or creative time, it does need to be matched to an energy state that
much.
you're actually ready to dive into that, because otherwise your body will start buffering and will do exactly that. Like your brain will try to find like 800 things because it won't want to go deep and spend that energy. So that's where rest is really important. That's where, for most people, morning hours are better than evening hours. You might be different. But that's the other thing that I'd want to say is to make sure that that rest time happens so that your body is actually able to be in that nervous system state where you can be dreaming and be creative and create. Because in a way, creativity is like the opposite of burnout, like state wise, if you're like burnt out and all that stuff, like creativity doesn't happen. They're like on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've read is it's not good to do like email first thing in the morning that,
Because you're wasting that time.
yeah, so that's something. But I'm again, okay, let me get this out of the way so I can go to, whatever I think are the more and, important tasks, the high value tasks that I should be involved in. And then I get sucked into the email
Oh,
first.
good. So this is like a perfect thing about where we have a couple of things, right? Because I think now it does become a strategy thing. And maybe you can try out different things. How would it feel if you just reminded yourself, no Quay, email happens at 2 p.m. Like,
Mm,
right?
yes.
Don't touch the email, it happens at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Or just say, you know what, it's sort of 90% of it is no longer my problem.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Anything else that I
I'm
can?
always afraid I'm gonna, because my businesses, we communicate by email, by my property managers, and other things. And so I'm always afraid I'm gonna miss something, in the middle of the day that's really important. But I have to
Are they
remember
really going to email you if there's a disaster?
that's exactly right. Exactly. Thank you so much. I don't want to take up so much time.
You have all the time in the world. Thank you for raising your hand and being brave.
Yes, thank you for raising your hand. That was such a good question because I struggle a lot with email too. So I wrote some things down during the coaching and then I was really listening to that as well and writing some additional things down. So thank you for that question. I love it.
Thank you. Have a good
So
Yeah.
I'm going to let Elaine see if there's anybody's hands up. In the meanwhile, I'm going to go through the chat and please raise your hand if you want to raise your hand. Any tips for figuring out amounts of time for tasks? Deb, this is a great question. And I think the answer to that is really this idea of like what feels doable, what feels spacious, and then re-evaluating, right? Because you could become better at creating your ideal schedule and your ideal time frame as you do that, right? The first time you just take your best guess from your highest self, like, oh, I think this is going to be 2 hours. And then the next time you're like, wow, I really love this hike. Let me schedule more than 2 hours because by the time I got out there and I got the dogs out of the car, like I need more time. But until you do it, you don't know. So what I would say is that's where the what worked, what didn't work kind of comes in because it's an experiment. And what might work now that my kids are like, 6 and 8 and they can buckle themselves and get their shoes on and go pee might not work for Elaine that has to get 6 kids and including little ones in a van. Okay. So it's just saying you're just gonna have to like make your best guess estimate and then evaluate in a way that it feels spacious to you. Because again, some people might want to do things back to back to back, and other people are like, whoa, that sounds really exhausting. I don't want to do more than 2 things in a day with all my children. So this is where the thing that I said, with compassion, look at what felt expansive, what felt restrictive, and then just change it by a degree. I hope that helps. Ooh, what goes on the calendar versus what goes on the to-do list? How do I manage those 2 things together? So yes, I love that question because it's a very kind of practical question. So so first of all, I think everything goes on the calendar, but it might be on different things, because that to-do list, like we were talking with Quay, is if everything has a spot, it takes away that running to-do list guilt, the like, ooh, I have 89 forms to fill out. So first of all, we should try to, number one, cut down that to-do list by all the things you shouldn't do. So that was like step, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, whatever it was, where, we all have these to-do lists that are just impossible. And there's like, how much stuff I have that needs to go to Goodwill? Is it really going to go to Goodwill anytime soon? No, it won't. Like, let's be real on that. Like, it will just collect, and then once a year it'll get dropped off. Like, fine. Right? So I've sort of resigned myself that it will be, by the time I go to Goodwill, it'll be a Ford Expedition full of clothes. But then there's things that are a little bit more pressing or that you actually need to get done. So first of all, on that to-do list, what can you bag, better, or barter? So let's cut down the things we don't want to do, because when most people say a to-do list, it doesn't sound like fun things. Like, right? It sounds like things you have to do but don't really want to do. And correct me if I'm wrong. So I would then from there, go towards the things that really need to get done is dedicate allotted time as much as you can. Like we talked to Quay, like I gave the example of, my payroll every other week that I still check, because on the past one I didn't, blah, blah. You don't need to know it, but I know that there's a time on my calendar where I check my payroll. So up until that time happens, I don't really worry about it. Right? So I would say the things that you really actually need to get done need to be on your calendar. But first, I would look at your to-do list and then kind of get rid of as much of the stuff that you don't actually want to do. Perfect. I love the idea of allowing time to feel spaces. Oh yeah, if everything went right, then I could make it happen, squeeze it in, right? That's that whole like, how productive can I be even in my like time off, right? And it might feel good, it might not feel good, right? So yeah, I think those are all of the questions. Yeah, and it's totally fine to have a future dream or to-do list, right? In the very back of your calendar, you could be the like, if it rains and we get stuck at home and we can't hike on Saturday, what projects could we do? But I mean, I think sometimes we feel like our to-do lists and our emails are more important than we do. And like we talked in the first thing of the workshop, it's like then when we have this identity of the person that hustles, that's responsible for everything, that gets everything done, that doesn't really serve us. So I'm going to just reiterate, when you have a to-do list, really look at it and see what are the things that only you can do, what could you bag, better, or barter, and then try to find designated time slots. And there's a lot more stuff that you don't actually need to do that you think you do because of guilt. So, Elaine, do you think that was all of the questions, or are there any questions that we need to answer?
I think based on my reading of the chat, that was all of the questions that came in. And I'll make sure that your contact information and everything is in the replay email as well, in case other things come up.
Well, awesome. So I think like I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're kind of at the 2 hour mark. Thank you so much again, Elaine, for having me and giving me this opportunity. Thank you for everybody who spent their evening, or if you're watching the replay, kind of playing and being excited and being open. I so appreciate it. It was so much fun being with all you all. I'm always available. And, if it calls to you, please consider retreat. It's going to be transformational. But again, it was such a pleasure. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, thank you, Jude. That was absolutely amazing. Again, I took a ton of notes. I have so much to think about and implement. So thank you. Thank you to everyone that attended live and come with us here till the end or are catching the replay. Do consider that retreat. If you got benefit out of tonight, imagine how much you would get out of a whole focused, not just that weekend with the retreat, but that month of coaching beforehand. Um, Thank you, Jude. Sincere gratitude. Everyone, rest well. Let this stuff continue to percolate in your subconscious, and know that when you have an experience like this and a lot is kind of coming in, you just have to make one or even two changes, right? And oftentimes these changes take time over months and even years. And you look back and you're like, oh, that's why I said I want to go back and read my notes from when I did this very similar workshop with Jude last year. So I look forward to hearing what's coming up for you as you implement these. If you're in our Freedom and Legacy group, share your wins in our chat. Let us know what benefits you got out of tonight and how you're planning to implement it. Thank you to everyone who attended. Everyone rest well. Have a good night. Big hugs, everyone. Thank you again, Jude.
Well,
Good
bye,
night,
everyone.
everyone.